Good afternoon. Welcome to Sam Bell from Sam. Which of your businesses shall I introduce first of all?
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for having me. You say my name's Sam. I would go with Copia is the one I consider my day job. So I come into the office every day, do the 9 to 5. But yeah, it's one of, as you point out, one of a few businesses.
As we'll find out in talking to Sam, he's a serial entrepreneur, and there's several businesses. So this is another of the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm Sanjeev Dodia from Action Coach. So Sam, let's get right into it. Tell us a bit about yourself and what got you into business and what you're doing now.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, it's not a word I use often myself, the word entrepreneur, but I guess the literal definition is something like someone who just gets on with it, which is how I've kind of always considered myself. So, over the years, as business opportunities have come up, and I've jumped on them and built a business around it. But yeah, going right back, Copia, the one we introduced at the very beginning, that as I consider my day job, I started that one when I was in sixth form, so in school. Going back 18 years ago now, that's when I first registered the limited company for that. I had dabbled in bits and pieces beforehand. But yeah, that company essentially builds websites, but nowadays is a bit more niche in that we work, as I guess a lot of companies do in the Southeast where we're based, with a lot of financial services firms. So Copia's clients will tend to be listed on the London Stock Exchange, or they'll be reasonably large corporates. We work with quite a lot of asset managers, so hedge funds, people looking after your money if you're investing it in funds. And we help them to tell either their investment case, so why should you invest in this company, or kind of their business story, why should you work with this company? So it kind of encompasses everything from, so we'll go in, we'll learn about the business, the design team get involved, we'll put together some really nice branding for people, and then use that to kind of visually tell their business story, turn that into a website. And then that's when it gets a bit more technical and you start looking at KPIs and when you can actually measure stuff. So as I say, that's kind of the main business, but I've got a couple of others as well. So Vitis, an events company. So 3 times a year nowadays, we put on a 3-day conference each time. And we have developers coming from all over the world, software developers, I should say, coming from all over the world. So Meta, that's Facebook's new name, Google, American Express, the BBC, they send their developers to my events and we train them on sort of best practice, what the latest things are in their preferred programming language. So as I mentioned, we've got 3 of those now. So
how did you get that started? How did you get into that?
One of them. So it started with one. It used to be volunteer-led. So I think after a couple of beers, I put my hand up in a pub and said, "Yeah, I'm happy to be the treasurer for this 50-person event." As it got bigger and bigger, and it's into the hundreds. So as I say, it's like 500-600 people at a time come to these things now. Everyone else disappeared. There were quite large sums involved in running these events. An event can cost £200,000 to put on. So as a volunteer-led thing, that kind of, as I say, everyone disappeared. I was the last man standing. Needed to go into a limited company structure because of the risk involved, especially now there are 3 such events. And so here I am today, 8, 9, 10 years later, turned it from 1 event to 3. Love to say I run it all on my own, but I've got someone very good who helps me run all of that, helps manage everything. And but that's good fun. It breaks up the sort of day-to-day building websites for people. There's 3 times a year we get to spend the week in London putting on these really fun events, meeting some really interesting people, speakers that fly in from all over the world, very big name sponsors. I take my team from the web development agency, and everyone has a good time with meals out every night. So yeah, it's really good fun, that business.
Great. Sounds like more than just a side hustle now. So
yeah, it's definitely spiraled into something that I wasn't expecting. But you got to put yourself out there, and you make your own luck, as they say. And yeah, if you're open to opportunity, it comes along.
Absolutely. And do you want to just mention the final string to your bow?
Yes. So having done the digital agency stuff for a very long time, and we noticed a bit of a gap in the market to do with the stock market data. So we are now official partners through a third business of redistribution of the London Stock Exchange's share price data and their regulatory news service. Mm-hmm. So that's a very technical business, but it's one that's, and this is always handy, one that's legally required, or at least required by the regulatory bodies, that companies use this data on their own websites. So yeah, it's probably what I would consider a startup still. We've only been going a year or so on that, but again, that's making good strides. So very excited about where that could go.
Excellent. So Sam, very interesting kind of portfolio. What are the sort of key challenges that you've experienced through that kind of 18-year journey that you can share? What were the challenge? What did you do to overcome them? What are the lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Copia being registered in 2005, it was only a few years into the business. And bear in mind, I was 21 at the time. We went straight into the 2008 financial crisis. And my clients, very specifically, because we went quite niche early on, were funds. So they were all losing money in the markets, certainly the run-of-the-mill UK equities investment funds. So we started looking at some hedge funds. So, if you've watched any of these films like The Big Short, you'll see some hedge funds did very nicely at that time. So just tried to keep my eyes open and look at, okay, the market's going down, who's making money at the moment. So we started working with some hedge funds that, had done nicely, had a bit of budget to do up their websites. Mm-hmm. So added an extra sort of area to the business then at the time. And then I guess more recently, the one that everyone's been through, and this is where having multiple businesses really paid off, and why I probably could never focus on a single thing, having gone through it. But with COVID, the events business essentially became illegal to run because you couldn't have more than, 6 people in a room. Yeah. And to make that business viable, I needed closer to 600 people in a room.
Yeah.
So for the best part of 18 months, we had to entirely shut that down. I had lots and lots of money tied up with AV companies, events venues, people who bought tickets. Of course, we had to refund them, sponsors, where we kept, we say, oh, we'll put it on next month. They said they're going to release lockdown next month. We'll put it on in a couple of months. That got moved and moved and moved. So had that been my only business, that would have been an incredibly stressful time. But thankfully, I've always had other things to do. And I'd say, if anything, the digital agency actually grew during that time. So we've doubled in the last 18 months, possibly somewhat. It's always hard to pinpoint why these things happen. I'd love to say it's all down to me, but I think where things weren't happening in the physical world, perhaps they went more online. People paid more attention to their online marketing, their websites, and so on. And I think we're a bit of a beneficiary in that sense. So
I've definitely seen that over the last 2-3 years, in the portfolio businesses we work in. So yeah, absolutely. And maybe share with us some personal lessons. What I mean by is your own development as a business owner through that journey. What are the highlights for you?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to start again, I think I would probably have gone and got a job for a couple of years. So I mentioned right at the beginning, I was straight out of school, thought, I've got aunts and uncles that run their own businesses. I think my grandfather did for most of his life as well. So I just looked at them and thought, well, of course I can do it as well. But what you don't see is what people have learned before they did that. And yeah, having never had a proper job, I suppose, you don't get to learn, how to manage people, perhaps some of the financial side of things. So very much winging it for the first few years. And then there have been other things, where I'm sure anyone who's an entrepreneur or business owner goes through these things, where there've been periods that I had a team in the UK, only 5 or 6 people, but I went traveling with my wife for a couple of years and, ticked off 30 countries that we wanted to see, working from beaches while I had the team in the UK. Whereas now I come into an office every day, we go traveling now and then. And there've been pros and cons, ups and downs to both, sometimes you wish you could work from the beach, but me being here with the team for the last couple of years has, as I mentioned, really helped grow the business. So put the work in and things.
Hey, well done for getting 30 countries in anyway along the way.
Yeah, it was very, very good fun. Quite tiring because I was working still at the, do 4 hours of driving and 4 hours of work, and then you barely get to see anywhere. But wouldn't do it any differently though.
Absolutely. So what's inspiring you about the future?
I guess both inspirational and concerning is the AI stuff recently. Some amazingly clever stuff that just seems to be seeping into our day-to-day lives already. So I know my design team here, they would spend hours editing something in Photoshop, whereas now they can click on it and say, make this blue instead of green, and it would completely change an image.
Right.
So it's it's always been this way in tech anyway. You've got to stay on top of the latest trends every day. You've got to be learning the next thing, or you fall behind very quickly. AI seems the same thing, but 10, 100 times as fast. So that's going to be a real learning curve. But at the same time, again, if I look at the design side of the business, we go in, we talk to a client, we say, where are you going as a business? What are you doing? Where did your founders come from? And we build a brand around it and help them tell their story. They don't always know what they want. A lot of this AI stuff relies on someone being able to accurately say what they want the AI to produce. And I think that's still people's real difficulty. So until people know what they want, I don't think the AI is going to take over our jobs there too soon anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole kind of AI piece is going to be as big as the internet and probably
absolutely
internet on speed.
Yeah, if you're good at your job, what it will do is it will augment. It's not going to replace lots of jobs just yet.
Yeah,
someone will quote this video in 2 years' time and say that guy was wrong. But yeah, right now, I think we're safe. Just use it as a tool to sort of improve what you already do.
Yeah, learn how to leverage it. Totally agree. And what is I mean, in terms of your vision for your businesses, is there a kind of end that you've got in mind that you're looking to get to?
Yeah, I mean, I think like most people, you work, if you're a business owner, you work kind of pretty hard. There is no such thing as 9 to 5. You work evenings and weekends. I'm sure there's only so long I'll be able to keep that up, particularly with multiple businesses on the go. So really, and as a coach, I'm sure this is something you teach people straight away, the in the business versus on the business thing.
Yeah.
Because I've come from a technical background, it's very easy when I see the team getting overwhelmed for me to say, all right, fine, I'll write some code for you, I'll help you out. But then what that does is stops me doing what I should be doing, which is bringing in new business mostly. And so then the pipeline gets empty. So yeah, it is a tricky one to not get sucked back into, as I say, in my case, writing code. So yeah, really, it would be if I could just do the operations side of each of these businesses, that would be wonderful. But I think I've got a couple of years to go before I reach that stage. With the end goal of hopefully selling on to someone else, which I have done in the past with another software business, which was nice. That helped out with buying a house and getting married and things like that, which just came along at the right time. But I'd like to do that again on a bigger scale, which would allow me to retire, of course, which I'm sure is the end goal for everyone.
Well, yeah, freedom seems to, financial freedom seems to feature quite a significant way for most
Yeah.
owners that I speak to and work with, and getting your business to operate without you, where you're stepping into shareholder, investor, more strategic roles, and choosing exactly how much involvement you do or don't have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is that choice. I mean, I very much enjoy what I'm doing now. I can't imagine not doing it, but I'm not silly enough to think that in 20 years' time I'm still going to enjoy working these hours and not having really grown the business. That's the bit I really enjoy, seeing that growth. And lots of people that work with me have done 7-8 years in my team, consider friends, and you want to see them do well as well. So it's quite a pressure that I'll be keen to see the end of in another decade or so.
Very good. Well, it sounds like you're on the right trajectory to achieve that. Are there any words of wisdom that you'd share with entrepreneurs on maybe earlier part of their journey, based on what you've learned?
Yeah, I think because we went niche so early on, I avoided all of the sort of local business meetups, things that weren't specifically tied to who I thought my market were. And it's really only in the last few years I've understood the value of networking. And that's, we've found good suppliers because I've gone out networking. So yeah, really early on, as I say, I kind of misunderstood what that meant. And I would only be going to conferences and events that literally had buyers for my products at, which, wasn't entirely wrong, but then you miss out on this whole wealth of people to learn from, other business owners you can meet. You can learn from some of their mistakes rather than waiting to make them yourselves, good suppliers, and then, just generally good people that you can lean on in the years to come. So I'd absolutely, first thing, if I could go back, get out there networking, never say no to a conversation, talk to anyone and everyone. Don't think about just pushing what it is you sell. Talk to everyone.
Very good, great advice. Any other final thoughts, Sam, before we wrap this up?
No, I feel like I've been speaking quite a lot there. So,
well, listen,
thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's a fascinating conversation. Everyone brings a different perspective, different dimension. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for your time. Have a great day. Cheers, Sam.
Thank you. Cheers.